5:32. We'll call the meeting to order. Number 2, the approval of the minutes from January 15th, 2025. Do I have the right one up here? Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I'll change that. I also just wanted to add that I did make 2 amendments to the original minutes.
Okay.
You should have gotten the most recent ones this afternoon.
Okay.
The 2 amendments were to add the times to the call to order and adjournment, and the making of North Water Street consistent in both the title and the section.
I'd actually like to make a motion just to amend one more thing.
Yes.
I would appreciate if we could more quote when I made comments about the demolition that I reflected on Lancaster's history and demolition for the sake of progress. Yeah, that's all.
So am I missing something here?
In which section?
It would be 5A.
Thank you.
But actually, with that, instead of motioning just to amend that, I'll motion to make that amendment and approve the minutes simultaneously.
Okay.
I will second that.
We have a motion on the floor and a second with the proper amendments of 5A and also the change of the date 2025, January 15, 2025. Ready for the question? All in favor, let it known by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, ayes have it, motion carry. 3, subdivision and land development. A, waiver of land development, 32 North Water Street, table from January the 15th.
And so this, you received via packet the additional information, including the site plan, and then I also sent along today some updated plans. Steve? And Steve is here if you have questions. Oh, yes, I sure can.
The mic.
Any specific questions you want me to kind of answer? I'm not sure exactly the conversation last.
Can you state your name, please?
Steve Young.
Thank you.
Mr. Young, one of the questions I had, I was looking at the plan, and I know there's one with a little bit more detail that was also sent to us. What are we looking at for egress or maybe windows on the apartment side?
Sure. Yeah. So the egress is gonna, and I had done the original just hand drawing. Architect's kind of been working through what she's doing there. So the access to the apartments is along West Grant Street. So a few years back, I had done the development of 30 North Water Street, and that was creating micro apartments, commercial on the first floor. By doing that, we, dug down, excavated to be able to provide ADA access for that building. So the plan with these other apartments, so 32 and 34 North Water Street, it's just deed-wise, it's called 32. So Lancaster Galleries, Joyce recently retired, so I bought the building years back. So our agreement was once she retired, I was just going to develop the back part of that. So the front part of it is staying commercial, and then the rear part is this warehouse piece that was added, I'm guessing probably in the 60s or something like that. It used to be Friendly Taxi, they would drive in from the street and just work on their taxis in the back, which is kind of interesting and unique for sure. So ultimately, to get access to those, we're going to use the current ADA ramp, which has the level air at the bottom there. So based on calculations, it's about 3 inches difference to be able to ramp up to the concrete warehouse floor, which is why you see that cut in, there inside the door that we're going to create there. So right now we have mini split HVAC, so we're just going to move those over and just extend the entrance, into that warehouse at that property. So as far as windows, there are a few small windows around the sides of the warehouse. As we kind of work through that, we're figuring out if egress windows are necessary. And previously in the past, there had been about 8 skylights as part of the roof structure there. So we're going to look to add those as well, so to get the natural light into the apartments.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
This is all on the first level, correct?
All first level, yeah. So these will all be ADA accessible apartments.
And you're going to be using the ramp that currently services 30 North?
Correct, yes.
And then are you going to make them one parcel, or is it
I'm sorry, say that again?
make 30 and 32, 34 one parcel? How will you maintain that?
Technically, the ramp parcel is on a different LLC that I own. It was part of the property at 210 West Grand Street when I purchased that. So we just shaved off a little bit of those parking spaces to be able to create that ramp. So in that process, there wasn't actually anything required since I had owned all of those collectively. So, I guess whatever easement-wise or whatever is necessary, for that.
Yeah,
I think that's simple enough.
I was going to say, just in the event that you never own all the parcels,
Sure.
definitely getting an easement recorded for access would be pretty important, because otherwise,
Yeah.
sell one building and next thing you know, all your tenants are like, I can't get into the apartment.
Sure, yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, I would also suggest contacting the engineer for separate addresses for the apartments.
Sure.
I'm going to echo a little bit of what Mr. Whalen had said about just windows. I know you said you're evaluating. I hope in your evaluation you can determine. I understand, especially with the middle apartments, it can be a challenge maybe to find light because they don't even have a wall-to-wall access. But light keeps people happy,
Sure.
regulated. So anything you can do to make sure your tenants have natural light, I appreciate.
Yeah, no, so the warehouse kind of encompasses the footprint of the building or the property as well. So what we had done on 30 North Water is, since that's on the property line too, we were able to get fireproof glass to be able to do windows. So it's actually technically part of the wall structure. Not cheap, but it's a way to get natural light, into any of the apartments that we were doing.
The only real question I have, because you answered the question/concern I had at the last meeting, which was the commercial space, because it's on Water Street with the bike lane.
Correct.
On the note of bike lanes, do you have any bike parking at your facilities around here?
So there is, at 210 West Grand Street, we have a built-in bike parking.
Okay.
And then at 30 North Water Street, we had like a bike rack, set up. So, it's kind of not bolted down, but it's available for bike parking.
Got it. Okay.
And I had spoken to Jamil about that, so.
I'm just curious about the size of these apartments.
So right around 400 square feet or so. So, the warehouse itself, that's where we're just kind of working through dimensions. So the warehouse itself is about 2,400 square feet. So she was showing these at a little over 400, so, which is like 16. So, I figure there's probably square footage somewhere that just wasn't calculated, but, studio type apartment. So nothing below the minimums that the city requires.
Yeah, I think this is a great project, and, whenever we can add housing units, especially at that size.
Yeah, and the ability to be able to get ADA units, it's just nothing that's usually on a developer's mind, unfortunately. So, we like to be able to do that where we can, for sure.
I'd like to make a motion to approve then the waiver request.
I'll also second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the waiver. What is that, for 34 North, 32? North Water Street? And 30 North Water Street?
I think it's just 32. Isn't it?
Okay, got it. Ready for the question? All in favor, let it known by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, ayes have it, motion carried.
Thank you.
Congratulations. So where's our agenda? I don't have my paper.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. B, waiver of footprint, thorough, threshold, rather. Requirement for minor plan, 618 South Prince Street.
Just introduce yourself.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Dave Keener. I'm the project engineer on this project for New Person Ministry.
Are there any questions? Yep.
Yeah, I do have a question. So just reading the text of our agenda, I saw that it was a conversion, but then I also saw like a demolition. So I'm just a little confused on if we're converting a building or if we're tearing a building down and using its footprint.
Yeah, good question. So the existing building is just a block building, pretty generic. It was a storage building. And so it's going to be, they had determined that they can't really use the block structure for residential purposes. So they're tearing it down to the foundation and then rebuilding it to fit into the housing that's on either side. So that's the plan.
And so the ask of the commission is to waive the threshold requirement. It suits a minor plan in all ways other than the square footage. And so the request is to allow the extra square footage and to enable this plan to move forward as minor. If it is not approved as a waiver to put it into the minor, it throws this plan into a regular land development. And so it is still going to go through the full land development process, just only as a minor plan. That's what the waiver is for.
Okay, I appreciate
It's not waiving it out of a minor plan, it's waiving it into a minor plan. And it both happen, so I understand, that's why I wanted to make sure to clarify.
Well, I appreciate that because I was a little confused. At first, it read to me like we were waiving any plan process, and you know, if it was a conversion of a building that was existing, I think I'd be amenable to that, but because it's a tear down and rebuild, I was like,
Yes.
I'd like to at least see it as a
Yeah,
minor plan.
no, there's a minor plan is going to move forward. Because it goes to all of the other standards of a minor plan, except this one. He's asking for your approval to allow it to proceed as a minor plan as opposed to a regular land development.
It might be worth mentioning that it had been, the plan had been before the historic board. And we also went through zoning to extend into the rear yard setback. We needed a little bit more space there for the plan to work. So we made that request to the zoning hearing board, which they approved.
At least you're on top of it. I mean, actually, with that clarification, I do feel comfortable enough to say I'll make a motion for this waiver, to approve this waiver into a minor plan process.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve this waiver to a minor plan at 618 South Prince Street. Ready for the question? All in favor, let it known by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none. Ayes have it. Motion carried.
Thank you for your time.
Sure. 4, staff report to planning commission.
Just a couple of quick notes for today. One, I wanted to give an update on the East End Small Area Plan. I'm happy to report that we had a very successful project team meeting last week. And we were able to share our consultant came and shared a PowerPoint presentation that covered our existing conditions plan. The existing conditions report, I should say, is 77 pages, and she was able to bring it down to like 14 slides. And so much more digestible. And it just gave a nice overview of what all is included in the existing conditions report. And then we are now in the process of trying to get that report, the 77 pages, out to the project team. We're struggling with the size of the file and having to break it into several pieces and then get it loaded somewhere where all of the project team members will be able to comment on it, because not everybody has that version of Adobe where you can comment. And so we're working on it, but also we had the State of the City last night, and so Monday and Tuesday, nobody was working on it, and so we're getting there. And so that, we also talked about beginning public engagement. And so last night at the State of the City address, I had a table, Betsy joined me, and we had the survey. We created the online survey and a QR code. So we had a handout that had the QR code on it to begin gathering community engagement through the survey. I'm also going to go and have a table at a Public Works event about the East End Connector, which is going to go right near McCaskey, which is also going to cut through the East End. And so I'll also have a table there. I'm hoping also to go and speak with the parent organization at McCaskey. And so try to hit that area, particularly people who have students who are walking and biking to school. So that, of course, the McCaskey campus has all three. It has elementary, middle, and high school right in that area. So it's a really important area for us to hit. And so things are moving along nicely. It took us a while, but I think that we're on the move and should be seeing some good community engagement come early spring. So that's up for the East End plan. And then for the train station, I know somebody had asked about that the last time that we had a meeting. And so just as a very brief update, we did also have a meeting for that. And I think that the most important thing to know is for right now going forward, the first piece of it that is being worked on is the transportation piece. And so there's a lot of road work that's going to need to be done for that plan. And it's going to involve a lot of coordination between the city and Manheim Township and PennDOT. and all of those intersections that are going to need a lot of work and a lot of restructuring. And there's going to be a lot of negotiating with regard to, how PennDOT envisions fixing the roads versus how Manheim or the city envisions fixing the roads. And so just kind of coming to the table and figuring out how that's going to work and who's going to lead all of that is a big piece of where we are right now. We're working with the county, so sitting at the table right now is the county and Manheim and the City Alliance, and of course the city. And so everybody's there to try to figure out how to make it all work together cooperatively. And so that is where that plan is. Does anybody else have any questions about projects for me?
I'll just go out real quick that the pedestrian bridge over the tracks looks like that construction of that has started, which is exciting.
Oh, that's it. That's great. I'll
Yeah.
run past there this week. Thanks, Porter.
Anything else? Other business?
Yeah, we got a lot of time, so I'll figure I'll just kind of informally be like, hey, let's talk a little bit about the comp plan stuff. I was curious if it would be possible to get me a GIS file of our existing zoning map, because I'd like to work up just some general conceptual, like just totally theoretical maps of what things might look like. But I really don't want to rebuild the map, so I'm hoping that the city has a file they can share with me with any redactions to private information, of course. And so that's like a request to staff. But generally, I'm just curious how you guys feel. We have a lot of zoning districts. I forget how many exactly, but like more than a dozen, which is a lot. I'm curious how many zoning districts you guys feel is appropriate, because I'd like to see a reduction.
So I can work on getting you the GIS file. I would maybe caution you not to go outside of the realms of a committee when we go through the zoning process, because all of that would be explored in the committee portion of it. Obviously, having ideas of what you think should happen would be good. I do believe the comp plan includes a reduction in the number of zoning districts and kind of consolidation. So we are looking at that at the next planning commission meeting. I feel like I'm very loud. The next planning commission meeting, I'm going to kind of present the timeline that we're looking for to go through the zoning ordinance process, update process. And I can also provide a implementation plan that we have for 2025. We're working on that right now for the comp plan. So, okay, like the high priority.
Just for the record, you should state your name just for the record.
Yeah, Betsy Logan, I'm the Planning Bureau Chief.
Yeah, I guess that was it. So thank you. I recognize that I'm just one person on the body, but I am definitely the type of person who likes to throw ideas out there for just general consumption, and I love making maps.
Yeah, and the zoning map doesn't have anything, like that layer doesn't have anything like personal data or anything like that on it, so.
Okay.
Betsy,
Yes.
sorry, question for you. Looking forward to the update in at our next meeting. I'm curious also as you're kind of thinking about an implementation plan, like are there pieces that Planning Commission can help with, and could that be part of the presentation? Like if there are things that you want us to start working on when we have time, or do you see this as mostly just like staff driven and we can advise?
That's a great question. I don't know that I've worked that out yet, and I think it really depends. There's a couple different ways that the zoning process can occur, whether it's like through a steering committee that is supported by the Planning Commission, like members from there and other agencies or boards and commissions would be part of, or if it's the Planning Commission, that's the steering committee and it goes from there. So I think as part of our scope, we're going to include that as a recommendation that we want to see from the consultant on how they would recommend proceeding. So we're working, I've got a draft scope prepared. I'm in the process of trying to finalize an RFP because we'll need a consultant to kind of lead this process since it's a big undertaking.
I would definitely say with the staff blessing as well as with our chair's blessing, I think it'd be a great idea to float or perhaps muster ahead of time any subcommittee interest or steering committee interest in that, because when you're ready to pull someone like Tony or whoever else would be interested in it, then you have us ready to go. I would not be opposed at all to floating that idea in front of the people who are here today and have it noted for the people who aren't here today who might be interested in that, because I think there's a lot of interest in helping with that, because it's an enormous task, right?
It is, yeah. A lot of eyes are needed on it too, and so.
So you said we're going to be doing an RFP to hire a consultant for the zoning review or zoning change process then?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And I'll just say for the record that, yeah, if there's a steering committee, I think I've expressed a lot of interest in being on that.
Gotcha.
But also, it's a great opportunity for the planning commission to interact with the zoning hearing board as well, because they definitely need to be at the table for any talk we have about zoning. And so I think anytime we can talk with them, work with them, have a, beneficial relationship, because there are municipalities where that is not always the case, where sometimes the planning commission, the zoning hearing board don't always pull in the same direction. So I think that would be key to making a lot of these zoning changes a reality.
Yeah, I would say, I would want to run that by our solicitor, just because in the past I've had comment from other solicitors that you don't want zoning hearing board involved in the actual zoning process because, obviously they can provide feedback and they're residents, so they could be involved in that aspect. Just so that you kind of keep that separation of, but we will definitely consider the kind of variances that have been approved. We have a database of that, what the consistently is getting asked for and requested, so that we can try to fix those in the ordinance. But yeah, I think it's good to have a zoning hearing board member at least involved, but I've also had feedback that it's not the best option, so that'll have to be worked out.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Public participation. Hearing none. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Let's go. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion
Oh, yeah, second.
and a second. For the question, all in favor, let it know by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none. Ayes have it. Meeting adjourned at 6:00 on the dot.